Entrepreneurship is hard, so let's fix that and dive into our heroes' journeys. This is Taking Flight, an entrepreneur's journey, and I'm Sarah Torville. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of those already in flight. This show is sponsored by EO Atlanta. Hello and welcome to EO Atlanta Taking Flight Season 3. Something I've been anticipating and working towards over the summer, and the EO team have all been in support and really helping us to find the best of the best people to have on the next episode. And I cannot think of a better person to open up Season 3 Taking Flight. And you will understand why as we go through her incredible introduction. Okay. So this entrepreneur is a member of Women in Aviation. And what is so interesting, she joins the ranks of 6% of women aviators worldwide, which that number is staggering that there's only 6%, but she's part of that number. So we're very proud to have her. She serves on the AAFC, Aviation Safety Council, at the Aero Atlanta Flight Center. I'm sure you're getting a sense of who this person might be and why she's so important. She's also on the board of directors for the Entrepreneurs Organization, the Atlanta chapter. So I had the pleasure of seeing her at least once a month. She's one of 1,500 volunteer network pilots transporting patients to essential healthcare services across the country. So she has a philanthropic side to her too. Bear with me, everybody. I'm getting there. And it's midday. I've had my coffee.
Everything's great. You're doing great.
A commercial pilot, an FAA certified flight instructor. And what's so interesting, she lives in 3 cities and has 3 businesses. And she is the business owner. And here we go. Welcome to Robin Sokoloff.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I have been dying to be here with you, and I feel really fortunate. Thanks for doing this.
You are very welcome. And I was, feeling pretty selfish as well, Robin. As you know, it's like, of course, Robin has to be the individual, the entrepreneur that allows Season 3 to take off with so much energy and excitement, because we have a jam-packed season of incredible entrepreneurs, and you are starting that off. So let's get right to it. All righty. Please, Robin, tell me. You've had a very interesting entrepreneurial journey so far, but I want to know, what did you get right when you took your first flight?
Well, what did I get right taking my first flight? Just, having the faith in myself that this was for me, that this could be for me, not knowing anything about airplanes, flying, aviation. I mean, it's only 100 years old. If you think about how extraordinary that is, that we've only had en masse airplanes in the sky for a little over 100 years, trying something new, in my early 40s, that that little girl inside of me always wanted to try, just having the faith to do something new and let go of all my ideas about what might hold me back when I go to do it.
Yeah.
And just really go for it. Full throttle. So many puns. Here we go.
I love that. So you're right. Having the faith to do it in the first place in an industry which is fairly new. Because 100 years isn't long when you consider what, the risks associated. Not to say that there are risks with, but you're flying an airplane. It's like,
it's like, we are flying on science. We can't see through air we weren't designed to breathe. I mean, just that alone is a kind of a miracle, and is a credit to everyone who ever dared to make an airplane, fly an airplane, and go far. So I'm flying on all that science and all that faith and ability and that human ingenuity. And I feel really lucky, really lucky to be up there.
Yeah, I bet. But I have to ask, why? I mean, I know you mentioned as a little girl, obviously this dates back to maybe early on, but where did the passion come from in the first place to be able to feel like you wanted to fly?
Like many entrepreneurs in big cities, especially New York City, where I'm from, and I was operating my businesses for over a decade. In COVID, unfortunately, we all ended up pretty cooped up, and it was hard. Those were the two most difficult, dark, challenging, and I'm going to be honest, excruciating years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And being cooped up for so long in such a tough situation, and having so much that happened next out of your control, something about coming out from under that made me want to do something new, spread my wings, and just get off the damn ground, get out there and see the world again, and find a way after all those challenges to fall back in love with myself and fall back in love with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in the pandemic, someone had said to me that they were going to go upstate and get their pilot's license. And I remember saying, "You're going to do what now?" And like the light bulb went off. I was like, we could just do that.
Mm-hmm.
We can go to a flight school, learn how to fly and fly. If you live in New York City, you don't really try to go to an airport. It's not really a military town, so you're not around pilots. It's just it's an arts and culture town, which is the industry I'm coming from. So this blew my mind when they said it. I remember putting it on the shelf and going, okay, if I ever got out from under this COVID stuff, this is what I'm going to do.
And you did it.
I did it.
That's very inspiring. And well, they say as soon as we get ourselves, when we're in tough situations, we find a way to, reimagine what is possible because we're forced into it. It sounds like you reimagined what was possible for you. And I love how you shared and you fell back in love with yourself. So, wow, that kind of like.
It's when you go through something like that, it's almost like everyone wants to get back to normal and everyone's pushing for normal.
Mm-hmm.
Something that goes on, any kind of crisis like that, a global pandemic, so much adversity, so much death and confusion and economic loss. No one really comes out the other side of that normal.
No.
And I knew it. I knew it when it began. And I knew it was going to be a journey, and a journey and a half, really. And I had to be honest with myself coming out of the pandemic that I was now different. I had changed. And I had to look at everything and all the evidence around me about my industry and what had happened and where it was going and what had accelerated in the pandemic that made my industry even tougher than it already was, and say to myself, well, how do I want to live now?
Mm-hmm.
How do I want to live the next 20, 30 years of my life? What can I do that reignites that spark in me and helps me feel new?
Right.
Yeah.
And you did it. And I can
still doing it.
I know you're still doing it. It's not like it's ended and there's still an ongoing journey, but I can see the spark in your eyes.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure you've had to learn a lot, but I'm just so proud of you I mean, you moved states. And we'll get into more because I know you did other things in terms of where you live, etc. We'll get into that a bit later. But so we cannot do this alone. We know that. We need people around us. So who was your co-pilot? Notice that pun. Who was your co-pilot, Robin?
Let's have a pun war. Let's do it. Man, my partner in all things, my partner in crime, my co-pilot, my lobster for life, that joke off of Friends, is my husband, Scott.
Okay.
My husband, Scott Sokoloff, has been through this entrepreneurial journey with me from the beginning, there and back. And, for someone who doesn't like to get in airplanes, he has spent the last 2 years on this journey with me, riding co-pilot, facing his own fears and concerns about flying and face them head on with me. And he's learning with me and we're learning together.
Mm-hmm.
So in business, in love, in friendship, in life, and yes, even in the sky, Scott's my partner for life.
Great. I had the chance to meet him recently as well. So at the recent Nerve event. And he seems like, I know he has his own entrepreneurial journey that he's on, not just along with you, but his own. So you guys have taken some very big steps forward lately. So I have to get him maybe on the podcast in due course.
Oh, please. And please know the Sokoloffs don't do anything small, right?
Wow. Okay, I'm getting that. I'm getting that impression for sure.
We go
So
big or we go home.
exactly, you've definitely shown that and doing that. So I would love to for you to share with our listeners, Robin, a challenge, something. I mean, it sounds like you've had some big challenges, but is there something like more recent that you've had to really kind of work on, and how did you solve it? Like, let's kind of like dig into some of the, just the smaller maybe challenges along the way.
Yeah, like I packed a bag. I showed up in Atlanta, knew nothing about Atlanta, took my first flight and just kept flying and never looked back. And I remember calling Scott a day later and going, "Hey, did you move here yet? I'm here. We're doing this." And then we had for the next few months to ask ourselves, okay, we've closed one business. We want to either start or buy another. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we had built over all those years came out of my passion since I
Right.
was little for entertainment and being in the arts and social justice. And now the world is different. We're in a different city. The economy has changed. Everything's changed. How do we go about learning from the past, taking those lessons forward? What do we start, or what kind of business do we buy? We were a clean slate,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to say to ourselves, well, what did we learn in this
Yeah.
crisis? What did we learn that people need in good times and bad? And of course, every entrepreneur has to ask, what will people spend money on in good times and bad? And what's so wonderful about EO is that transferring to this chapter, being in this beautiful community here in Atlanta, just like New York City, everyone's there to help.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has thoughts, ideas. They've been on this cycle as an entrepreneur. They've been through the ups and the downs, the exits, the closures, and the restarts. And one of our fellow members linked us up with an opportunity that sparked our passion
Mm-hmm.
and sparked our intrigue. And we bought a business in Nashville for dog training. Scott loves dogs. I've spent most of my life running from dogs, but I'm running like dogs. So we went from someone who doesn't like airplanes and someone who doesn't like dogs. Now we both have these two businesses, and that's just kind of how we roll, opposite
Yes.
track.
Yes, most
So
definitely.
yeah, that was hard. It was like, well, I had this idea of myself my whole life, and now I'm letting it go. What are we going to do next?
Yeah.
What kind of business can we start or buy that serves our new needs and will carry us forward, hopefully into our retirement?
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you, because I think if I was in that situation, um, I would be thinking that I'm going to see signs somewhere like which says, this is the kind of business, like this is it. But that's just, I don't know why. I just feel like I don't know how I would know otherwise unless I saw kind of signs. So were there signs that you saw? It sounds like you kind of really work within EO and work that network, but like what advice would you give to somebody else who's feeling like they want to make a change, but how do they do that? Where do they get the idea from?
Well, ask everyone. In the past, I wasn't a big fan of kind of going on the list and being like, "Hey, what did you do? What did you do? What
Mhm.
did?" I kind of, I grew up in my industry, so it felt like, well, I know everything, and
Yeah.
that's great, right? So this time around, I learned my lesson, and I asked. I
Right.
asked around, "Hey, anyone know of an opportunity? Anyone know of a business that you yourself might want to get into if you had the
Mhm.
opportunity?" We interviewed a lot of folks. We did a lot of research on small businesses in the area. We, did our homework this time. We
Yeah.
dug in on the numbers. We dug in on P&Ls. We asked the right questions.
Mhm.
And it was tough because coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people were looking to get out, like their lives had changed too. And when we dug into the numbers would often fall apart, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or they were the business, or it was a family business. And once they're out, the whole thing really couldn't stand on its own.
Yeah.
So things to look for when you're doing that is, is it putting off cash? If so and so leaves, will this thing continue? If you step into these roles, will it be fruitful? And what has this looked like through the ups and downs in the past? And do you think you have the capacity based on the resources and infrastructure in place to carry it forward.
Yeah.
We did more investigating this time than I think we've ever done. You know, we opened 3 venues and helped on a 4th in New York City. This time we did our homework, and that's what was different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doing the homework, asking questions, being curious. It sounds like all those things have been important.
Yeah.
Great advice for people. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, is there I was trying to question where do I ask this question? It's about what's your favorite book right now? Because the favorite book might relate to the fact of the challenge that you just had, but it could be something really like has helped you in other areas of business. Is there, and it doesn't even need to be an entrepreneurial book. Is there a book that you have read recently which like has invigorated you, inspired you, or just something that you loved?
I'm going to share a special book that I have read 3 times now. And the reason I keep rereading this book, and I love doing it by audiobook because the character voices are amazing, is The Actual Star by Monica Byrne.
Okay.
This is a science fiction novel that spans, 3 time periods, past, present, and a possible future, 1,000 years apart, that helps us understand who we are as human beings, where we've been, where we are now, and where we might be going.
Right.
It's my favorite novel because of so many reasons, especially in aviation, taking this flight journey.
Yeah.
So my new world, and all of our worlds really, are ruled by science, by weather, by climate change or not, by the advancement of technology or not, and what that's going to mean for us as humans, as business owners, as family members for the next 100, 200 years. And this book drops us into 2012 and beyond to say, hey, warning, signpost ahead. We have these technological advancements. We have this issue of climate change. How are we going to respond as a species? And if we don't in time, what does that mean? Right. And if you're an entrepreneur, we just had severe flooding here down in the South, and all the relief efforts in places like Asheville, North Carolina. Flooding is scary, it's deadly, is expensive, and sets us back. So what are we as a species going to do to come together as entrepreneurs, as community members, as government leaders to address something that is coming?
Yeah.
So I love it. It's The Actual Star by Monica Byrne.
The Actual Star. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a novel, but it sounds like there's a lot of real life, well, not the future, because who can determine the future, but it sounds like it's also based on some reality too.
Oh, sure. And it's steeped in science and it's steeped in history. And the other beautiful human side of it is if you believe that you don't just get this one life, that maybe, you get many opportunities, many possibilities of you in many lives to relive and learn some more and do it again. This book takes you on a journey on human relationships throughout history and into the future. And I think it's just such a both important and also spiritual read.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What a powerful book recommendation. It's going to be the next thing I check out. And you said, and they do Audible, and you said you love the versions of the Audible.
Yeah, Monica Byrne is such an incredible author and playwright. She took the time to give different voices to every character in this sweeping novel. So I think it takes you on a journey like nothing else. And I audiobooked it, I finished it, and then I restarted again.
Incredible. That's very good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I'm about to put another pun out there. There's just going to be so many today.
Bring it.
Robin, what does your future of flight look like?
Oh, man.
What excites you? I want to know. I know lots of things excite you, but.
Yeah, what excites me about flying is sharing it. I mean, when I started this journey, I had no idea I'd end up teaching other entrepreneurs how to fly and teaching them on the aircrafts they hope to buy.
Right.
I mean, it really came full circle for me. Early on, when I got my license, I was like, all right, EOers, hop in. Where do you want to go? What are we doing? I got to build time. And I realized while I was taking these awesome journeys with all of you that I love teaching.
Yeah.
I love sharing, and flying is best shared. It's an
Right.
experience best shared.
Hmm.
So the future of flying for me looks like more of that. Seeing more EOers, and we have quite a few in this chapter and others who already have taken this journey, are
Yeah.
taking this journey, and I can't wait to see how they keep climbing and soar. I always envisioned myself a medical medevac girl.
Right.
I love flying for a mission. I
Yeah.
love doing work like angel flights. I love using aviation to bring people to resources safer and faster than ever in the
Yeah.
kinds of planes I get to fly. Cirrus Aircraft is one of the top general aviation world-class airframes in the
I heard
world,
that. Yes, I heard.
and I have the great fortune to fly not only myself and my family, but those who need resources, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 states away.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the future of flying is continuing to be a part of that. And, as you know, Scott and I do have a forever home down in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And so if ever I have to retire or semi-retire,
Yeah.
maybe I'll be one of those chicks who island hops, brings tourists for fun, gets packages to and from. We'll see.
Yeah.
Really, I say often, like, the sky's the limit, but the sky is not the limit.
No.
The only limit is how I think about me and how you think about you.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I keep going on my climb, I'm commercial multi-engine, CFI, CFII. The next thing is jets.
Right.
And of course, everyone always wants to know, do you fly jets? And I'm tired of saying, no, not yet.
Okay.
If someone put me in a jet. That's my future.
Okay. My gosh, she has bets in her future.
Yeah.
That is what's coming. And but it's so nice as well to hear that what you thought you were getting into actually ended up being far richer than it is. You thought you would be flying people around, and then you realize that actually it's a whole other level. And then you also realize that you just really enjoy sharing that flight as well. So there's there's sharing, there's educating, there's so many elements to what you're doing now. It sounds like you didn't know all that at first.
I knew nothing.
Hmm.
And when I say nothing, I called the flight school and they said a bunch of stuff to me about what kind of planes I want to fly. And I literally had to say back, hey, listen, ground zero, I have no idea
Right.
what this is about, but I want to know. Can you put me in a plane tomorrow? I'll learn everything I gotta.
Okay.
And to discover that, I mean, there's an
You do that.
airport every 30 nautical miles in America.
Yeah.
And to discover that the ease entrepreneurs can have to visit clients
Mm-hmm.
in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast, like most of us have,
Mm-hmm.
to be pilot in command in this way, hop in an airplane, go to your clients, come back for dinner, sleep, and do it again it's an extraordinary privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing this with other entrepreneurs. And I love, going to Savannah and back, handling all my other companies off my laptop while someone else is in their meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And, as EOers, we love to share our experiences and our journey.
Yeah.
So not only are we learning to fly, we're also helping each other stay in great mindsets and habits and tools.
Yeah.
And keep growing.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it's ticking many boxes, Robin. I'm so glad to
So
hear
many
that.
boxes.
So many boxes. Who knew? Who knew? Thank you to our strategic alliance partners for their support to our EO Atlanta community. Check these partners out as they can help you soar further into your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you to Chase, Belay, Trainial, EOS Insperity, American Express, CEO Coaching International, Ashford Advisors, Clifton Larson Allen, and Homwick Berg. Okay, so who are you, Robin? I want to know, like.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, a big question. Like, what are some pivotal moments you think which led you to become an entrepreneur? Because you mentioned to us that you were an entrepreneur in New York City, you were in events, so that this dates prior to you becoming your own pilot. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, where do you think all this entrepreneurial spirit stemmed from, and why?
Well, if you asked anyone if they ever thought I'd be a pilot, they would have said no. And just like that, if you had asked anyone years and years ago, would I be a business owner? They also would have said no.
Right.
Becoming a business owner was born out of, early on the experience as an artist, coming and go from venues and stages and nightlife and meeting spaces, and seeing that not everyone was welcome. And I didn't like it.
Right.
It struck me as early as 17.
Right.
And there's an origin story there for another podcast. And when I saw it, I resolved in myself to one day build a space where no one ever feels like that, is treated like that, where intolerance is not tolerated.
Right.
And where everyone feels welcome, everyone belongs, not just me, everyone who doesn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I advanced through my career in the arts, that became the goal. And, I learned very quickly that the only way to make that happen is to open a space, open a business where
Right.
that is what happens.
Right.
So it was born out of a mission and a passion for a more inclusive and better world.
Right. Gosh,
Yeah.
that's great. That's
Just
fabulous.
small stuff,
Small steps, yes. Put that into practice.
Yeah.
In New York City and created that environment. Which, how do you think you take? Do you take any of those values? I'm sure you do, because I'm sure you live them. But just wondering if you have any examples of how you might. Maybe it's the same with your business now, that everybody is welcome. So, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'm at the beginning of building 2 new businesses from the ground up.
Right.
One in flight training and one in dog training,
Yeah.
right? Humans and dogs, right? And I feel like the dogs, hopefully, all get along.
Yes.
I think
That's
what's
true.
interesting, so far, and I know this wasn't always the case, so far the magic that I find in aviation is that where when I was born in 1981, I never saw a pilot that was a woman come out of a
Mhm.
cockpit.
No.
I've lived on this earth for 40 years and
Mhm.
never once, no matter how much I traveled, saw a woman come out of a cockpit.
Mhm.
And somehow, through so many people's efforts on so many fronts in that
Mhm.
industry and others, by the time I took my first flight, it started to become normal
Right.
that, one of the key heads at my flight school was a woman and 10 years younger than me. And she's extraordinary.
Right.
That flight instructors are female, that captains are female, that first officers are female, that across the industry in maintenance, in flight crew, just across the flight deck and more, it's becoming normal that women are everywhere.
Yeah.
And so the beauty is that when I started flying here where I did in the heart of Atlanta, it was the first time, I think, in all my life where I was in an environment that I experienced to be misogyny free.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew my mind, because I feel like as a woman, and as a business owner, as an artist, as just someone walking down the street, I've been tackling and confronting that my whole life.
Yeah.
To suddenly have the volume turned down on all that stuff that women and other folks go through, coming and going from industries where it's unique to see them there. I stepped in the cockpit and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I am just treated like a pilot everywhere I go, whether it's on frequency in the air, at an FBO, at airports, in training, at other schools. I'm just a pilot. And it is refreshing. And it is, I think, the hallmark of what everyone in America is looking for, is that it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Who I am, where I'm from, what I look like,
Yeah.
what's under my clothes, what's in my mind. Am I doing
Yeah.
the job? Am I doing it well? Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that to spend my life looking to change the world, to open people's minds and to make it more inclusive and welcoming, to then find myself in a situation where maybe we've actually come so far.
Yeah.
It's a sight to see. And again, I feel more privileged and honored
Mhm.
than anything to
Mhm.
to be a part of that. And I thank all the people it took over the last 100 years to make that real for me.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And it's nice to hear you state that as it's a positive affirmation that there has been some, the gap is closing in some areas. Because I still don't hear that in many areas of business. But it sounds like you're right. You're able to see the advancement in the industry that you're in.
Yeah, the closing that gap takes leadership. And I am fortunate to have landed at one of the most extraordinary flight schools in America, Air Atlanta
Right.
Flight Center,
Right.
with an extraordinary business owner and visionary. His tagline is realization of dreams through flight.
Right.
And his leadership creates that high bar where all are welcome and all can learn how to fly. And if you've got that dream, it's our job to help you realize that dream.
Yeah.
It's a really special place, and it's proof we can do it.
It definitely is.
What I've experienced over the last couple of years is proof in every industry we can close those gaps and we can make a more equal, fair, and equitable world.
Yeah. Well said, Robin. Very well said. So I feel like we've touched on this, but I want you to pull this together for me. So I want you to kind of what problem do you think that you solve? This is really about, you're being a pilot. What problem what are you actually doing? You mentioned about the fact that you're enabling entrepreneurs, be able to get to a meeting. Build on that for me. I want people to really kind of crystal clear here, really the value you bring to an entrepreneur, for example.
Yeah. On the aviation front, we all know to get to Hartsfield, you got to leave maybe an hour before. And then you need to be there for 3 hours on the ground, eating your kishkas out, hoping this flight's on time, right? Then there's the journey in the air. Then you're landing at a major airport. Then maybe you have another 40 minutes, hour, ground transportation to whatever. Then you got to meet with your clients and crunch it. Then it's an overnight, and then it's maybe come back. And you may or may not be traveling with your staff, all the money and resources and logistics that take. What a headache.
Yes, it sounds it, just the way you said it.
Yeah,
Headache.
and when you're a pilot and you get to hop in your own airplane, it's more like 10 minutes from your house, no schedule, no ticketed seats, no security. You're in that plane, you do your pre-flight, you fly, you land probably closer than ever to your clients, and you hop on out. There's a car waiting for you. Yes or no? There's an Uber there. You take your meeting, you hop back in your plane, and you come back. I mean, the time saving, the headache saving, it frees you up in your life. It gets you back to your family before dinner. I mean, the bonuses are enormous.
Yes.
So the problem I'm solving is just to open people's eyes to this opportunity and this possibility for themselves and others, just like I had the exposure early on and often. And in a broad sense, I feel like the way I am in the world, which is how I've always been, is I'm the kind of person who can zoom out, look at how things have been done, look at how people are doing them and say, hey, there might be another way over here. And then being the risk taker who goes and tries it. And goes, see?
Yeah.
Right? This might be a fair shore. So I feel like the way I live and the chances I take and the belief I have that there's always more and there's always more awesome, the way I live hopefully inspires others to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know why you're shocking me today, and it's in such a good way. Every answer you're bringing forward, and I know it's deep in belief, and it's honest, and it's very powerful, Robin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that all comes from one, some things are in your DNA, and some things are in your upbringing. Living as an artist from when I was very little, and getting the freedom to explore and express different sides of myself, different skills, different tools, different characters. It being an artist opens your mind to all your possibilities.
Yeah.
And so going into business, while it never seemed like a path for me, being an artist helped me be creative and
Yeah.
nimble and
Yeah.
open to
And
possibility,
agile. Yeah. To be able to
and go and working the theater makes you real scrappy, real rough and tumble. So when you got to roll up your sleeves in
yeah.
business, dig in and do what needs to be done, I feel like that's where I learned how to be that person.
Yeah.
And you put up a show in the arts, and it may last for a week, it may last for 10.
Mhm.
You have to let go of outcomes and be always ready to start again.
Right.
So in a lot
Yeah.
of ways, the artist journey and the entrepreneurial journey, they mirror
Mm.
each other. And in terms of taking risks, I gotta say, every time I go try to drive in Atlanta traffic, it feels like a bigger risk than getting in an airplane. So I guess it depends,
Yeah.
what your threshold or your bandwidth for risk
The
is. We're
risk
all a
is
little different.
definitely, definitely. I agree. Fabulous. Okay. So I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you because I love to ask this question. I think
Uh-huh.
most people know this.
Mhm.
It's my introspection question.
Ooh.
Robin, if you were going to do this all again, would you do it all over again?
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, she's
I have
thinking.
no doubt that everything I've gone through, and I mean everything, and I've lived a big, adventurous, busy, wild life, happened the way it happened and had to happen the way it happened to get me in that cockpit
Yeah.
at 40, tabula rasa, clean slate, and fly. Knowing what I know now,
Mm-hmm.
I would advise anyone going into the venue business, whether it be meeting space, nightlife, theater, dance, film, music, the space business, as I ran it
Okay.
for over a decade in New York. Don't rent, buy. If you're going to
Right.
open a venue, buy the building.
Mm-hmm.
The forces against you, if you don't, are almost insurmountable.
Right.
And the rents just keep going up, and fighting that as a small business owner is a
Mm-hmm.
tough one. So buy
Right.
the building if you're going to open a venue. And much like that, if you're going to get into flying, knowing what I know now, consider buying an airplane and
Yeah.
being on that airplane.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know. I hopped in that cockpit and I just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways to train. You can rent, you can go to a flight school, you can also buy an airplane
Right.
and learn to fly on that airplane.
Right.
So that's something I may advise someone, depending on their situation, to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No big buy a building, buy an airplane. Sarah, I told you.
There are ways to do
Just
that. You don't have
money.
to, yeah, there are ways to be creative in how you do that, but that sounds like very good advice. It feels like you've experienced perhaps the way you wish it hadn't been done. Maybe you should have bought something. There's no should in this,
Yeah.
language, but and again, that's what drove you to where you are now.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying I had any of those resources at the beginning.
no,
But if you do and you can pull them together, I say buy the building, buy the
yeah,
airplane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Buy the building, buy the airplane. I love it. Okay. So you are a very busy woman. We've talked about multiple businesses, multiple kind of. You live in one state and another country. Beautiful island. We need to go there at some point. I won't say where. And so you're busy. So is there time? And if there is time, what do you do to fill your heart up when you're not working and being an entrepreneur?
Hmm.
And I know it doesn't include dogs because they're not your major
I
number
mean, they're
one.
cute. I love them.
They're
I'm into
cute.
it. And you know
Yeah.
what? If I'm being honest about the dog thing, I grew up with a lot of friends who didn't have trained dogs
Yes.
or big dogs. I just grew up scared,
Yeah.
right? I'm meeting a
Happens.
lot of wonderfully trained, super adorable,
Right.
well-meaning, well-mannered dogs, and they're fluffy and they're cute, and I'm all about it. So
Good.
I am pro dog for anyone who's
Good
concerned.
girl.
What was the question?
So I love it. See, there's no time. I was like, what do you do outside of work? What do you do when you're not being an entrepreneur?
Oh man. So something I took up years ago when I first opened my company and I got, my time management under control. I had my key employees. I had everything set. I took up figure skating as an adult.
Hmm.
And this was wonderful for me. And here's why. I missed dancing.
Mm-hmm.
I was no longer entertaining. Now I was building the entertainment center. And figure skating gave me a way to, one, have an extraordinary workout, two, dance in a whole new way that didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
So, of course, in true Sokoloff style, it didn't turn into just one lesson. It turned into 10 lessons. It turned into the best skates with the best blades.
Of
I
course.
competed as an adult figure skater, and it became my world. So, in the pandemic, that did go by the wayside. I am looking forward to getting back into figure skating.
Mm-hmm.
Have a pair of skates on order. Yes, it's hot in Atlanta, but yes, it seems like you do have ice rinks, and
We do have ice rinks.
I'm gonna use them.
Yes. Yes, it's incredible. In a hot place, those ice rinks exist, but even outside, there's some even which exist outside. Even in Alpharetta, there's an ice rink. I don't know if you know this. It comes out like November the 15th, and it stays until end of January.
All right, if you're going, I'm going. Are we doing
beautiful? This? Yeah, it's beautiful. It's not very big though. It's like you could probably, you'll probably take over it and be putting us all to shame. So
well, I am 4 years out of practice and pretty rusty, so we can start. Let's bring the bar down. Let's bring the expectations down. I used to have my single jumps, and now I don't know.
It won't take you long. It's like riding a bike. I just know it. So, well, this has been an extraordinary, fabulous conversation. I would love to ask. Actually, sorry, there's one last question before I get to my final question. Mm-hmm. Okay. What ROI has EO provided to you?
Man, what
sounds like it's been a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the ROI at EO never ends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really and truly, I joined in 2019 in New York City, the New York chapter, and from the moment I signed up for that membership, it has become one of the most valuable things I do for myself every year. The ROI, sorry. Can you cut that out?
You're good. No, you're all part of it. You're getting excited.
So the ROI above and beyond events and friendship and mentorship.
Yeah.
The opportunity to coach others, to be coached.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the top ROI in EO lies in forum.
Right.
It lies in the forum practice, the forum experience, and all the value it brings to each member and the group. I really subscribe to forum practices, exercise, and values, and I bring it with me everywhere I go, inside EO and out. Mm-hmm. It's changed me. It's changed how I view myself in the world, and it's made me a better entrepreneur and a better person.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely. Great answer again. Okay, now my final thing. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Robin, what is the right way?
Oh, it's easy. Yeah. My full name, robinsokoloff@gmail.com.
Okay.
Email me. You can text me. You can keep one of these hats from Nerve and send me a picture and say, "Hey, Robin, it's time to fly."
Yes, that would be so cool. We could do a great social campaign with that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be very cool.
Yeah. You can look me up on the EO member directory. Yeah. And I have one of those QR code jammies. If I hold it up to the camera.
Let's hold it up. Let's see.
Let's give it a shot.
Jane will let me know later whether this is going to work or not, but let's try it.
Let's try it. Anything.
This is our new platform that we're using. Okay. So anybody, if you have your cell phone and you are watching this incredible first episode of season 3, get ready to take a photo of this QR code.
Okay, so I'm using Popple.
Okay.
This.
There she goes.
Here it comes. I'm trying to learn how to use it too with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Here's my QR code.
Okay, there we go.
Hold up your cameras.
I love it.
This is harder than flying, I swear. and reach out to me.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. I don't think anyone's ever shown their QR code before. So this is a first.
It's a whole new world, man. It's a brave new world, and we are just living in it,
We
Sarah.
don't need business cards anymore. They just don't. We have so many other ways of doing it. QR codes or all the rage. They finally came into fashion 10 years after they were meant to. So, well, Robin, this has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm looking forward to next conversation and hopefully our first flight together.
I would love to at some point. I really do want to. I've talked to you about this before. I'm a woman of my word. At some point, I'm going to follow through on that. But I want to thank our audience who are incredible. We have some wonderful you're all wonderful followers and viewers. Some of you are watching this on your smartphones. But if you learned something today, maybe we made you laugh, please tell someone else about this podcast. Spread the word. Season 3 is going to be incredible. It already is incredible because we have taken flight with Robin Sokoloff. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Sarah.